Konnichiwa minasan, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Reina Scully coming to you from Japan. This video is sponsored by Rosetta Stone, and today's Japanese lesson is all about Western loanwords that got forced into Japanese. So much like in any language, there are a lot of common words that were not originally Japanese, but over time and over consistent usage, they have been adopted into our vocabulary as though we were always naturally using it. Those types of words are loanwords, and in Japanese they are called gaidai-go, composed of the kanji for gaidai, which means imported or having come from elsewhere, and go, which is the kanji for language. We also have another term called wasei-eigo, which means Japanese-made English or Japanese-coined English. The difference between gaidai-go and wasei-eigo is that gaidai-go retains the original language's definition and usage, while wasei-eigo tends to differ from the original intent or definition and actually becomes its own neologism inside of the Japanese language. Put simply, wasei-eigo are pseudo loanwords, so they're often made from compound words or portmanteaus that are customized for Japanese speakers, and they are not legitimate English words. For example, the word skinship means physical contact and bonding. It comes from the English word skin and kinship, and although you can extrapolate the definition and kind of force it to make sense, skinship is not an English word. So since skinship is a Japanese created term using English words, it is a wasei-eigo. However, in Japanese, escalator is escalator. There is no other definition for it. It means what it does in English and in Japanese. Therefore, it is a gaidai-go. Currently, most of our gaidai-go and wasei-go come from modern technology, like words that are related to smartphones or terminology that's used on social media. But we actually do have a lot of classic loanwords that come from Dutch, German, Russian, Portuguese, and French. So in this video, I'm going to go over the more common ones and ones that I find particularly silly. Before we dive into specifics, I want to thank Rosetta Stone for sponsoring this video. Rosetta Stone is a great place to begin your Japanese language learning journey, especially if you don't know where to start. It acclimates you to the auditory components of Japanese from the very first lesson, so you are immediately immersed. The app is intuitive and keeps you on track on a schedule, which is really important when acquiring new languages, as you have to pace yourself, but that's not something everybody can do on their own. So if you're interested in Rosetta Stone, check out the link in my description below. It has a great discount on all their monthly subscriptions, plus you can get unlimited access for only $179, which allows you to learn as many languages as you want on one account, and once you get Rosetta Stone, you have it for life. Now on to explaining some useful gaidai-go and wasei-eigo that are commonly used in everyday Japanese. First, let's talk about words that didn't come from English, like gomu, which means rubber in Japanese. Gomu comes from the Dutch word gom. Keshigomu means rubber eraser. Keshi means to erase, and gomu is rubber, so keshigomu. Keshigomu kashite kureru? Can I borrow your eraser? Keshigomu kashite kureru? And wagomu means rubber band. Wa means circle or ring, and gomu is rubber, so wagomu. Wagomu de tomete, close it with a rubber band. Wagomu de tomete. Next is arubaito, which means part-time job. You will hear this word all the time in Japan. I'm sure you've heard it at least once or twice in TV shows or anime. It comes from the German word Arbeit, which means work. Arubaito sagasanakia. I have to find a part-time job. Arubaito sagasanakia. Then we have rentogen, which is X-ray in Japanese. This again comes straight from German, Röntgen. Oisha-san de rentogen totte kita. I got an X-ray from the doctors. Oisha-san de rentogen totte kita. And then there's the word norma, which means minimum requirement or quota. This comes from the Russian word norma, which means standard or norm. 今週のノルマ達成できてよかった。I'm glad I was able to fulfill this week's quota. 今週のノルマ達成できてよかった。Next is branco, which is the Japanese word for swing, like in a park. This comes directly from the Portuguese word for swing, which is balanço. あの公園のブランコ危ないよね。 That park swing is dangerous. あの公園のブランコ危ないよね. Now let's move on to English loanwords and pseudo loanwords. First up is アパート, which is the shortened form of the word apartment. However, it specifically refers to an apartment that is small and rented and usually only houses one person. 私は一人でアパートに住んでます. I live alone in an apartment. 私は一人でアパートに住んでます. Then we have mansion, which does come from the English word mansion. However, it specifically refers to a permanent apartment that you own and is large enough to house a family. いつか大きなマンションに家族と住みたいな. I want to live in a big apartment with my family one day. いつか大きなマンションに家族と住みたいな. And now, on to the workplace. Sarariman comes from the English words salary and man, and in Japanese, it specifically means a full-time male office employee. 夫はサラリーマンです. My husband is an office worker or my husband is an office employee. 夫はサラリーマンです. Next is ワイシャツ, which is our word for dress shirt or button-up shirt. Wai or Y is the literal shape a button-up shirt makes, and shatsu is shirt. ワイシャツがシワだらけで恥ずかしいです. My button-up shirt is wrinkled and I'm embarrassed. ワイシャツがシワだらけで恥ずかしいです. Now let's talk about リストラ. This is our word for layoffs or being terminated due to company downsizing. It comes from the English word restructure, which got shortened into リストラ. リストラされたらどうしよう? What will I do if I get laid off? リストラされたらどうしよう? And just like in English, being laid off and being fired are two different things. So as a bonus, to be fired is クビ. そんなことしたらクビだね. You'll get fired if you do that. そんなことしたらクビだね. And now on to some random words. Tension means excitement, and it comes from the word tension. It's most commonly used as テンション高い, which is describing somebody that is very energetic, or テンション上がる, which means you are becoming more excitable, getting more excited. 今日はテンション高いね. You're so energetic today. サッカーの試合見るとテンション上がるよね. I get so excited when watching soccer matches. Next is anchi, which actually has several subtle different meanings to it in Japanese. It comes from the English prefix anti, but more specifically, it comes from the word antipathy. So the three main ways you'll hear anchi in Japanese are 1. To depict reversal or opposite, like anti-aging, which is anti-aging, like wrinkle creams. 2. Anchi by itself to depict people that are against or in opposition of someone or an idea. This latter usage is more prevalent in social media, and it's most closely related to the word hater. For example, あの YouTuber は過激なことを言うからアンチがいっぱいいるんだよね. That YouTuber says controversial things, so they have a lot of haters. あの YouTuber は過激なことを言うからアンチがいっぱいいるんだよね. And finally, it's very closely related to that last point, but if you're, let's say, strongly against a political figure, you would say you're anti and then the name of that person. And now let's talk about the phrase metabo, which kind of sounds like a Pokemon. But the colloquial usage of metabo is used to describe somebody who has an overweight midsection due to middle age. Think of it like a beer belly or a dad bod. It comes from the English words metabolic syndrome, and Japanese doctors do use this term medically. However, you'll most likely hear it as something likeメタボでズボンに入らなくなっちゃった. I can't fit into my pants because of my dad bod. メタボでズボンに入らなくなっちゃった. Speaking of body shapes, we use the phrase スタイルがいいね to mean you have a nice body. スタイル comes from the English word style, but it doesn't mean fashion or anything like that whatsoever. In Japanese, it specifically is referring to your physical body. あの子背も高いしスタイルがいいね. That girl is tall and has a nice body. Side note, we also have a phrase, nice body, but that does have a lecherous connotation. So if you just want to compliment someone, you should just say, スタイルがいいね. Next is カンニング, which means cheating, like on a test in school. It comes from the English word cunning, but it doesn't mean skillful or anything like that. It literally just means cheating on a test. あいつカンニングしてるから100点取れたんだって. I heard he got 100 because he's cheating. あいつカンニングしてるから100点取れたんだって。And finally, let's talk about 電子レンジ, which is our word for microwave. This is made by combining both Japanese and English words. Denshi is Japanese for electronic, and renji comes from the English word range, as in stove or cooking area. So you'd hear something like 電子レンジで温めて heat it up in the microwave. 電子レンジで温めて I know that was a lot to take in, but I hope you found this video interesting and helpful in learning Japanese and getting more comfortable with it. When I was younger, I had no idea that words like buranko and denshirenji weren't originally Japanese. It was a really big learning moment for me, so I thought this lesson would be really fun to go over together. Let me know in the comments if you happen to know any of the wasei eigo or gairaigo that we went over today. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Rosetta Stone for sponsoring this video. Remember to check them out by clicking the link in my description below. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. そんじゃまったね